Perfect, all set. We will share the recording in our follow-up email after the webinar. Also, we will have some time reserved for Q&A in the end of the session. So if you have any questions about today's presentation, please send them to us in the Q&A section where we can track them and address them by a written or a live answer. Today, we're very excited to have a wonderful team of ITSM Pro experts from our partner, Westbury Analytics, the cloud people, participate in our webinar. With that, I would like to turn this over to our presenters and let them introduce themselves. Brian, please take this away.
Thanks, Anna. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Brian Barrett, ITSM Practice Manager at Thirdera. My role includes such responsibilities as sales, delivery, innovation, overall helping our organization deliver the best ITSM product and services that we can.
All right. Brian, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Excellent. This is Pedro Soto. I lead a similar role at Westbury Analytics for the Now Intelligence Consulting practice area. And Westbury Analytics is now part of the cloud people. I'm very excited to be here and share some really cool insights we've learned along the way of when it comes to implementing virtual agent. And accompanying me today is one of my colleagues and partners in crime, Dan Munoz. Dan?
Thanks, Pedro. I'm Daniel Munoz. I'm a senior technical consultant. I've been working in the area of analytics and reporting for over 20 years. In the past few years, I've specialized on providing implementation services for the Now Intelligence applications, including creating performance analytics dashboards for ITBM, ITSM, HR, implementing virtual agent, continual improvement management, etc.
Thanks, Dan. Right.
Thanks, Pedro. So what are we talking about today? ITSM professional and ServiceNow. While that makes up a lot of different areas, we're going to focus on virtual agent today. Talk about the 3 keys to a successful virtual agent implementation, demonstration of these capabilities, and a quick start deployment roadmap. You know, our recommended approach to implementing first iteration virtual agent. So an introduction to ITSM Pro. As you see on the left here, these are some of the applications that are included within the ITSM standard offering. These applications help you manage common IT processes and procedures, incident, problem, change, release, things that you're probably familiar with if you're familiar with the ITIL framework. And on the right side, we can see some of the applications that are included with the ITSM professional offering. ITSM Pro is inclusive of all the standard applications plus more. So some of these key features are what we call Now Intelligence. Now Intelligence helps an organization work smarter and faster. It includes tools that help you make predictions and automate repetitive tasks so you can focus on strategic work. And Virtual Agent is one such tool. It uses machine learning and natural language processing so that you can automate common requests. Next slide. So some organizations hear virtual agent and they consider the term synonymous with artificial intelligence. And that makes the idea of implementing daunting or maybe even unapproachable. But that's not the case, right? So implementing virtual agent is not implementing true artificial intelligence. You're not trying to build Skynet or C3PO or anything. This is essentially a chatbot with some machine learning capabilities and language processing. Another important consideration is we want to build a virtual agent that can learn over time. This will take away some of the pressure to have a chatbot that's capable of resolving every issue under the sun on day one. So what does that look like? Well, what we're displaying here on this slide are essentially 4 tiers of artificial intelligence available today. So at the ground level is something relatively easy to achieve. It's scripted conversation. At this level, we're controlling everything the virtual agent will respond with. So basically, you could picture a flow chart with decisions and actions, completely controlled and predictable. So controlled that, in fact, we're oftentimes even removing the option for a customer to type a statement into the virtual agent, instead replacing that interface with controlled menu options. That'll eliminate the need to cover layers upon layers of conversational edge cases and ensures that the AI is able to cover your core use cases as intended. Next step up is to enable natural language processing. At that tier, you're taking your scripted conversation and breaking it down into separate purpose-built conversation flows. For example, like password reset or unlock account. Picture those as their own separate flow. At this tier, we begin to let go of control of the conversation at the customer's end, right? So we're letting them type anything they want into the conversation bar as they would with a live agent. The virtual agent is then able to determine the intent of that statement and pull up the correct conversation flow. And then at that point, the conversation returns to a predictable workflow-like state. Next step up from that is this machine learning. The intent at this level is to make use of machine learning technology to help the bot make better decisions over time, thereby lessening the burden of your support team after the initial release. So we can make use of machine learning to predict incident categories, assignment groups. It even comes into play with NLU processing when determining what conversation flow to take with a customer. An important tool we need to use in order to make this successful is gathering of affirmation. So when the virtual agent makes a prediction, let's say reset a password, or it decides we need to route an incident to the database team, we want the virtual agent to ask the customer if this was correct in their opinion. So a simple statement such as, it sounds like you need your password reset, and then prompting the customer for yes or no. We could take that data, record it, and then use that data to train the virtual agent to make better predictions over time. At the top end, deep learning, that's essentially the upper bound of artificial intelligence available today. Deep learning is similar to machine learning, but just take that entire training piece out of it. So the AI no longer relies on a trainer, and it can train itself or become smarter all on its own. So there are some very advanced bots out there that dabble in this technology, and this is what we would really consider true AI. This is not what we're attempting to accomplish with Virtual Agent. And with that, I'll turn it over to Pedro to take you through the next steps.
Excellent. Thank you, Brian. If I can just make a quick check. You can hear me okay?
Sure can.
Yep, we can hear you.
Beautiful. So thank you for taking us to the launch pad there, Brian, as the engines continue to warm up before we really take off into the stratosphere. We would like to conduct a poll. If you're an organization that is an end user client of ServiceNow, because we have folks from ServiceNow, we have folks that are partners in here, but if you are an implementation end user of ServiceNow, we'd love for you to tell us, are you looking to implement Virtual Agent? Answers remain confidential. We just want to get a feel for that. If yes, you're looking to do it in the next 3 months, in the next 6 months, or sometime in the next 12 months, or no plans yet. And we will just keep the poll open for about 30, 45 seconds. Love to get your input on that and feedback. In the meantime, as you do that, I would like to bring to your attention a very special point in time that we're at. Thirdera is celebrating its 1-year anniversary of literally coming into being. And over that 1 year, they're now over 500 team members, I think 515 or 511, somewhere in there, and well over 2,000 ServiceNow certifications. So I really wanted to congratulate Thirdera on the achievements and dozens of excited, happy, satisfied customers, because I know I've interacted with a good number of them in our collaboration with Thirdera. So Anna, I think we can wrap up the poll now. If you share the. Okay, so there you have it, guys. Somewhere between a third, 29%, a third of attendees are looking to implement virtual agent within the next 3 to 6 months, and another 25% looking to do it in the next 12 months, whereas 43% have no plans yet. Really appreciate that, folks. Gives us an idea of the interest for, deploying virtual agent. Excellent. So we will continue. Thank you for that, Anna. Really appreciate it. So I was sitting in front of my monitor on another Zoom call with the ServiceNow platform manager of a large company, something we do pretty regularly. And he was telling me a story I had heard at that point at least 7 or 8 times before, and it was uncanny how similar the stories were. It almost seemed as if all 7 or 8 people that I had heard the stories from different companies had been in the same room having the same experience. It was like, Pedro, he said, we've been working for 6 months and we can't get virtual agent to work right. We're frustrated and we don't know where to go from here. And he went on for a few minutes and I knew what they were going through. And I knew the cause of the challenges that they were facing as they attempted to implement virtual agent. And that's when we decided to put together the information you're about to receive, because we believe that ServiceNow has put together the best system of intelligence on top of the best system of record, and that when it's properly implemented, it can deliver massive benefits to the entire enterprise, not just IT. Now, we have enjoyed an outstanding and productive partnership with Thirdera for the past year, and I feel honored to be able to host this webinar with Brian and the team. And as we saw, it appears that the subject is of interest to the ServiceNow community, also because we saw just around 700 people register on LinkedIn for the event, and there's a good number of dozens of people attending live as we speak. So today I'm going to share with you 3 keys about implementing virtual agent that will help you avoid wasting hundreds of hours and losing 6 or more months of valuable enterprise return on investment. And we have discovered that you can implement virtual agent without the frustration and waste of time that other platform owners are experiencing. And we want to share this information with you. And in addition to those 3 keys, I'm going to share with you a free resource at the end of the presentation. That's a bonus that you won't want to miss, because it's going to deliver a lot more detail on what we're going to cover today. Our time is limited, right? But you're going to be just blown away if you're a platform manager, platform owner, or you have some responsibility for delivering virtual agent to your community. You're going to want to stay tuned for that. Great. So, like I said, we're going to share the 3 keys to a successful virtual agent implementation. Now, right before I get to that, I just want to make sure I cover some context, right? So the first thing is, these 3 keys that we're going to share with you are all geared to support the outcome of end user adoption. Folks, virtual agent is very different from the typical experience of implementing service management solutions. The typical focus when implementing service management solutions is technical. And for virtual agent, while obviously the technical aspect of things is important, that is by far not the primary goal. It is end user adoption. And in order to get that, analysis and design are critical. The demo we're going to do today, once I've been able to give you context to what that analysis and design needs to look like, it's just really going to give you some awesome insight into what you need to do. One of the things you need to do to make sure that you remain focused on end user adoption and not a technical implementation. So in Pro License Technology, when Brian shared that slide of what ITSM Pro includes, and he highlighted virtual agent, I also wanted to let you know that within the Now Intelligence suite of products, there are other tools that form part of implementing virtual agent, not only for technical integrity, but to support that focus of end user adoption. That's predictive intelligence. performance analytics. I'm sure everybody here is familiar with performance analytics, and a real neat tool called continuous improvement management module that most people here have not used. And basically think of the continuous improvement management module as a very specialized and slimmed down version of PPM, but it's very focused on tracking continuous improvement initiatives, a critical thing that you will need to embrace for virtual agent, because it's not a one and done thing. You know, most of the time when you implement the ITSM modules, change, incident management, you implement it and you're like, 95% of the way there. And over time, there may be changes, but with virtual agent, that is very, very critical. And you need to integrate all these tools in order to stay on top of being able to analyze and improve the user experience over time, to provide that familiar, seamless experience, and to continue identifying automation opportunities, which continue to drive the user experience and cost reductions and efficiency improvements in your environment. So you have virtual agent, you have predictive intelligence, and then you have your analytics tools like performance analytics and continuous improvement management module. Those are just unbelievably essential to be able to track your critical success factors during implementation and post-implementation, because the environment will change. And as you bring on new services and new applications, you need to be able to track how well those things are performing in your virtual agent implementation. Great. So now we can start talking about those key points that I want to share with you. And the first one is this. When you think about virtual agent, you need to think in 3 levels or 3 layers or 3 phases of integrating virtual agent. So let me share you what I mean. So level 1 of virtual agent integration, always driving to automation, is a general catch-all topic where you're able to open incidents or submit incidents, submit catalog requests, and manage the lifecycle of all the tickets. This is a phase where you're adopting, enabling that user adoption. You don't want to introduce a whole lot of virtual agent functionality because folks are used to, their phone, their walk-up, their email, all the traditional channels. And you want to create the next step in the evolution of your virtual agent experience. So in the out-of-the-box topics that with Roam, there's about 29, like password reset, those kinds of things. Those are also level 1 VA integration. They represent a very close experience from what end users are used to today. And it's very helpful for enabling that user adoption. What you're looking to do here initially is improving MTTR, okay? Let's go and take a look at what level 2 of virtual agent integration is. At this level, what we call are custom topics. So here's what's gonna happen. Through your analysis, before you start building anything on virtual agent, you're going to look at a couple of things. So what are some of my critical applications and services on the one hand? And on the second hand, when you do a pure analytical quantitative look at your incident volumes, and you take the Pareto principle, 80-20, what services or applications account for 80% of your ticket volume? Because that's going to help you prioritize which services and applications are going to be dedicated for a level 2 virtual agent integration, where you're going to develop custom topics for these key applications and services. Some of them may be just so critical that they don't represent a high volume, but they're really critical. And some of them you'll just take based on volume, Salesforce, Oracle applications, that just account for a huge volume depending on the business. The outcome here is that you now start really improving customer experience, MTTR, first call resolution, and you start seeing cost reductions. Super cool stage. But this is not where the magic happens. This is where the magic happens, level 3. And here's the irony, right? When people think of virtual agent, all of us just wish, or at least have the aspiration and the vision in our mind, that we go to a chatbot, we type something in, and within seconds, it's resolved. That is possible, but not till level 3, because this is where you have full automation and a seamless end-to-end experience for users. This is when workflow automation is seamlessly integrated with VA. Hey, I need to have access to this new application that I just got approved for. And the ideal would be, I need this new application, and within less than 30 seconds, Virtual Agent delivers a message that it's ready for download, or it's even been downloaded and it's ready for you to log into. And there, you're improving deflection. You're getting the maximum return on investment. That's that full automation where you're integrating with backend workloads and processes. Very analytics driven, because you prioritize based on ROI potential. You continue to drive automation of manual processes and improvement to existing automation. And then you identify opportunities where you just have to automate in order to be able to create that kind of an experience. Great, let's go to key number 2, choosing the right skill sets. So let me share with you a typical experience. Senior management goes to the platform owner and says, great, we're decided to implement a virtual agent. And, since it's out of the box, go for it. And immediately the platform manager says, okay, who's my best developer that's available? Goes and grabs him or her, and they start working on it. But here's the thing. Remember what I said at the beginning? This is not just a technical implementation. There are 2 critical skill sets that you need to employ. And the first one is very analytical. The second one is technical. So let me give you a little bit color on that. So what happens is in the analysis, you have to look at your business process between the service desk and your end users. And it's fascinating the insights that you gather when you take your priority services and applications because they're critical or because they account for very large volumes and tickets. You actually start looking at how folks communicate and the back and forth of how a particular service or application gets supported, right? And you need to take that into account into your design. And then the technical is the actual ability to work with virtual agent designers. So that's where your developer really comes in to shine. But you don't even want to get into the technical until you've done a good job of what the analysis is. Okay. The thing also to keep in mind about the technical is that the challenge is you're going to need to integrate all the relevant modules from Now Intelligence to support an effective VA deployment. So you're going to need predictive intelligence. You're going to need that continuous improvement management module and performance analytics. There are a handful of other tools that are very much related to analysis that you will also need. When I tell you how to get that free bonus resource that we created, we cover all those details in there. And so I just wanted to give you an idea. This is the technical part, right? How to custom build a custom topic on virtual agent. That's the technical part. But what I really want to bring you to, and this is where Dan is going to come in, is how do you create the design that the technical implementation person is going to use to drive your custom topics on level 2 and level 3, which is where the huge benefits come. So here I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to Dan. Dan, can you hear as well?
Yep, I can hear. Thanks, Pedro. Let me see if I can share my screen. Right, let me know when you can see it.
Excellent, we can see it.
Perfect. Okay, first of all, I'm going to reiterate just the position and approach we take to topic design. Okay, first of all, what function does the virtual agent provide? Well, the virtual agent uses automated menu-driven conversations to help users quickly obtain information, make decisions, and complete IT tasks. These conversations are defined in the virtual agent topics and are triggered by the user's intent. So for example, a user starts a chat with the virtual agent and sends the message, I need to reset my password. Right. Using natural language understanding, the virtual agent predicts the user's intent and initiates an associated topic. Right. The automated conversation in the topic is started, and using the map questions in the conversation design, the virtual agent assists the user in addressing or fulfilling the request. So in a nutshell, that's how the virtual agent works. So one of the keys to success in using the virtual agent is knowing which topics to build and how to design them to provide effective support, right? The virtual agent comes with a base set of topics for general support or core topics, use cases such as report an incident or order from the catalog, but utilizing the out of the box or creating more specialized topics to support critical applications or services provide a better level of service to the user. Right? In the demo, okay, I used various on-platform analytics and reporting tools to identify which services contain the most number of incidents grouped by type. From the analysis, it was found that Oracle is a high priority service that should be supported by the virtual agent with a dedicated topic. To design the topic, we need to identify first, which issues should the virtual agent focus on. In this case, we're basing the focus on the number of incidents to get the most benefits with the virtual agent. The requirements will be based on goals you can set for the virtual agent. Secondly, we're creating a customized topic to support Oracle. So what other Oracle issues or requests should be included in the topic design? Right, this diagram shows the results of the analysis. So at the, this is for the Oracle service support structure. And the analysis that was ran in the incident data for the Oracle Enterprise Services showed that there are typically 3 categories of requests that are being submitted. And below each one of those categories are some subcategories. So these categories of requests are your common categories of requests that when a user contacts a support desk, they identify it as either an access request, a functional issue, or a request for information. So beneath each one of these categories, we have the actual data that we collected from the analysis. So these are all the incident types that were identified and the total number of incidents per type. So what we did is we rolled up all these incident counts for the types of incidents to the subcategory and category. So with this data, we know that we should be focusing on the groups of incidents represented with the highest number of counts. Now, the next step is to collect more detailed information for each type of request so that we can build the conversation flow with the goal of fulfilling a request or providing a solution through the virtual agent. So we'll look at the reported performance issues and drill down into the detailed analysis of that and find out what is the required information, what available resources are there for fulfilling the request, who is a supporting group, and identifying any continual improvement recommendations. So first of all, the required information. So this helps identify what application is affected and who is affected. And we use this information to kind of guide the conversation to where it needs to go to fulfillment. We identify any available resources for reported performance issues. If there are any documentation in the knowledge base that provides troubleshooting information, or if there are any scripts in the service desks that give you step-by-step information on how to troubleshoot performance issues. We identified the support groups as being the service desk, the primary support, and the Oracle support being secondary. And finally, we identify, based on this information above, what is there room for improvement? So improvement opportunities, in other words. So I identified that, hey, there is a service desk script for troubleshooting the performance issues, but there's no knowledge-based document. So a nice improvement initiative to create would be to create a troubleshooting document and place that in the knowledge base so then the organization has access to it. So we're sharing the information captured from this troubleshooting script in the service desk to the whole organization. So if someone else has the issue in the future, they can query the knowledge base and identify the issue and potentially resolve it on their own. All right, now that we have all the information captured from the analysis, we can begin designing the conversation. So let me go over to the topic design slide or map diagram that I have. So in this diagram, we group the results from a support perspective or of categories and subcategories. We use that structure as a guideline to set up a menu guided conversation that will identify the user's request and guide them to the correct conversation flow. So in the design, at the start of this topic, we create a question that identifies the category of the request. So here, we entered, what kind of help are you looking for? Is it an access request? Is it a functional issue, or is it a request for information? So selecting one of these options exposes additional selections for the user. So what we did is we've made sure that all these options covered all the incidents that we identified in the analysis for performance issues. And we also included common requests for this category. So from an end user's perspective, it makes sense. We also included exception flows, they call them. So if a user gets to this point and realizes that, hey, none of these options will help, you have to make sure that they have a way out. So they can either cancel the conversation or go back one step. So the next step is to create the fulfillment flow. So this is the conversation that's going to help identify the user's issues, more details regarding the issue, and hopefully provide some sort of way to resolve the issue. So for this, I'm going to go into the performance issue that we analyzed and take a look at how we design the flow. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the performance issue conversation. I'll go through each conversation one step at a time. So in the beginning, we want to capture information required to resolve this issue. So in the required data analysis that we did, we identified that, hey, in order to resolve performance issue or address them, we need to identify the application that's affected. So we have the virtual agent ask that question, which application is affected? So the next question is if there's anyone else affected. And we provide a menu of options here so the user doesn't have to type anything in. They can just select yes, no, or I don't know. So that's a good practice to create as many of these as possible. So once they've completed that step and we've identified what application is affected, how many people are affected, you can virtually ask the user, how do you want to proceed? So we pretty much put everything in this demo just to show what it covers. So what we added as the options is, hey, we can let the user troubleshoot the issue. We can have the user open an incident or transfer to a live agent. We're going to select troubleshoot and let's see what that does. So if they select troubleshoot, what we do next is create a conversation flow for troubleshooting the performance issue. And this is the information we captured from the service desk support script. So we add that in conversational form and we include it in the conversation. So if the user goes through that and once they complete it, virtual agent can ask, was the issue resolved? So if it was resolved, we can complete the conversation and the incident has been deflected. So if it wasn't, we can proceed by asking if the user wants to open an incident or transfer to a live agent. So if we select transfer to a live agent, information captured in the conversation gets transferred to the live agent as well as the chat session. Now the live agent handles the rest of the conversation. If they decide to open an incident, we kick off the create an incident conversation flow. So this is a series of questions that are presented to the user to collect the necessary information to create an incident. Right? And once all that information is collected, the virtual agent creates the incident and validates that or verifies to the user that the incident has been created and presents an incident summary to the user with a link to the incident. So if they want to click on the incident and make any adjustments, they can do that through the service portal. And the conversation ends. So in conclusion, I provided a brief overview of the process involved in identifying what topics should be created, capturing the contents of the topic, and how to design the conversation flow for the topic. All right, Pedro?
Yeah, great work. Just checking. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Awesome. Now, I'm sure many of you paying attention to this that are looking to implement virtual agent in the next 3 or 6 months probably didn't capture all of that. And within a few hours or a couple of days from now, it'll be a very distant remote memory. So guess what? At the end of this presentation, remember, I'm going to tell you how you'll have access to a free bonus where you can have Dan and a couple of other senior technical and business process analysts from our team share with you some real valuable information, the details of what that is and how to do it. We are getting questions in, so feel free to submit your questions. One of them was by Donna, and she asked, how are tickets that are created through Virtual Agent marked so they're distinguishable from other tickets for metrics? And I know that Dan is really one of the guys that's big into analytics. So why don't you share some of your thoughts on that?
When the virtual agent and when an incident is created through the virtual agent, you can set the contact type to the virtual agent. So now you know which incidents have been submitted by the virtual agent. There's also all these other analytics tools to track the virtual agent performance. There's a conversational analytics dashboard. And when we were doing the analysis, we captured what metrics we need to track the top number of incidents by service. We can use those metrics to define indicators and include those in the performance analytics dashboard to track how well the virtual agent is really handling any of those incidents that we identified as being the top priority instance or top number of incidents by type.
Excellent, thank you, Dan. Somebody submitted another question. Yeah, awesome. No, that was it so far. Great. Okay. So let's go on to, and Dan, just to check, can you see my, as I'm sharing it?
Oh, yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, it says key number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome, thank you. Very good. So third key, commit to continuous improvement process. And folks, I'm going to be real candid with you. Continuous improvement is given a lot of lip service. And the reality is it's not practiced as much as it's talked about. And with Virtual Agent, that's going to change. It's going to just force you to change and truly embrace continuous improvement. Here's why. This is not an application that you deploy and it's a technical deployment. It's a technical implementation. It is a consumer grade application, right? So if you're in an organization of 3, 5,000, 10,000, 50,000 end users, you eventually want to be able to deploy it all the way out to the organization. So the only way you're going to be able to create the kind of user adoption that will bring you the return on investment and the amazing benefits that are possible with this solution is if you embrace continuous improvement. And I want to share with you the model that we have really worked with historically at our company, because analytics is typically applied when companies have a true commitment to continuous improvement. And so it starts by understanding the business cases that a client, an organization, has identified and wants to improve upon and commit. Once you have the business case, you do an analysis. So let's bring it specifically into the deployment of Now Intelligence solutions. You're going to have an opportunity to use any of the tools, process optimization, clustering, which is predictive intelligence. You'll also do some good old-fashioned manual analysis, meaning pulling reports and metrics to see, where the numbers are pointing to. Once you have your analysis, you identify the improvement case that's going to deliver on the business case, the business outcome. Is it a virtual agent deployment? Is it a reassignment by using a machine learning solution? Is it automation, workflow automation that you need to deploy? And then once you do that, you apply your methodology. You have a process improvement plan, you use the out-of-the-box templates that you have available, and you use SIM, that continuous improvement management module, which still hasn't really come to the main screen yet, main time, but it will. as people discover how valuable it is when you actually have to do continuous improvement because you deploy virtual agent. And then you bring in your analytics, right? Your performance analytics, dashboards, and reports, because what they enable you to do, two important things, right? Track performance, so you can identify areas of improvement. Real critical with virtual agent, right? Because you want to know how the chatbot, how the agent, how the AI and machine learning that's running in the background is performing in terms of learning and adapting and creating the right assignments. But the second and critical importance is the return on investment, which your senior management is going to want to know. And that's the improvement model that we have to address continuous improvement. So we're wrapping things up here, got a few more minutes. I want to share with you what a quick start deployment plan looks like, okay? You're going to want to define your implementation strategy. The focus there, what are the business case? What are the business outcomes? Is it customer experience? Is it cost reduction? Is it improving efficiencies? And there'll be a, maybe you want to do all three, but there's going to be a priority. You want to enable ServiceNow knowledge base with AI search, and then enable guided support and request automation, meaning you're definitely going to roll out level 1, and you're going to look at one custom topic to identify based on your analysis and work on that. Then you'll integrate with any enterprise messaging apps. I would say 9 out of 10 implementations, they want to integrate with Teams, sometimes with Slack, less so with Workspace. But few of them are just using the chatbot widget on the service portal. They're really leveraging things like Teams. And then you'll want to deploy your entire lifecycle management of a ticket, opening them, updating them, adding comments, all that kind of stuff, list and closing them. And you'll want to activate at least one classification machine learning solution. Guys and gals, this little bullet point right here will make you a hero to your senior management, because the classification machine learning solution helps you automate incident categorization and assignment at quantum levels of difference beyond what you're doing today with rules, with business rules. So remember that, please keep it in mind. You're talking 3 weeks max from starting to work with it to deploying it, and you start seeing the benefit. And then of course you want to build the analytics tools. So this is something that can be accomplished between 6 to 8 weeks. If you've got the right guidance and you've got the right training and all that. And this is what that would look like, the timeline to really execute and deliver all those points. Very doable. Great, we're wrapping up here, and I had been announcing several times a free resource to accelerate your quick start solution. So folks, we have created a video series. It's around 23 videos, maybe -1, -2, and almost done with it. We should have it wrapped up by tomorrow or Friday. And they're short videos, but they're very practical, right? Screen capture, you hear Dan, you hear a couple of other very experienced consultants in working with Now Intelligence, Virtual Agent, Predictive Intelligence, PA. And it's based on well over 2,000, I think we're getting over to the 3,000 hour of experience deploying Virtual Agent. This will save you months, 6 months or more of trial and error. Just send me an email, pedro.soto@westburyanalytics.com. In the subject, put VA Accelerator. You don't have to write anything. If you want to say hi, feel free to do it. And I'll send you the link to where you can get those videos. So here's what we know. We know that you have the Now Learning. You have excellent resources, Now Learning, Virtual Agent Academy. You have the community, and you have the documentation. The little gap that we're trying to fill here is on the street live experience. Okay, we've distilled thousands of hours of barking up the wrong tree, going down rabbit holes, and eliminated that for you so that you can really be able to deliver a quick start solution to your management that will be the foundation for extensive level 2 and eventually a level 3 implementation. So with that said, I want to open it up for any questions you may have. I want to thank everybody for taking time to assist today, for those of you that are live, and for those of you that catch us on recording. Thank you for your attention, and feel free to reach out. We're happy to help out, answer any question you may have about Virtual Agent or Now Intelligence. And Anna, if you see any questions.
All right, yes, we do. We have quite a few here. I know Brian marked a couple of them to be answered live. Would you like to address some of them, Brian?
Sure. So let's take a look. We've got Dave Wilcher. So as you look at virtual agent deployment, Pedro, you've got that skill slide. He finds that helpful. Digging through a little deeper, he's wondering what kinds of FTE or staff you see your clients organized around virtual agent. Do you have any useful heuristics? Say he has 1,000 virtual agent conversations. What kind of support staff does he need to keep that running?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So, and we're talking quantity or quality. When I mean quality, I mean the type of. Let's address both. So, your critical leverage is using your analytics and your SIM, your CIM. This is for the long term. Okay. Now, just to clarify, is he asking what kind of support numbers it takes to be able to serve 1,000 virtual agent conversations? Is that, or is it?
So specifically looking like what type of a team, like what FTE or staff do you see your clients organize around supporting virtual agent? Yeah, if there's about 1,000 unique virtual agent conversations at a particular cadence, what type of staff does he need to support virtual agent?
You mean for live agent? So here's why. So let me share on that. If you are implementing live agent, meaning that of those 1,000, conversations, certain percentage are going for live agent, then it's going to be fairly specific to the industry and to the company, to the organization. But if you're not doing live agent, it's not going to create an impact. It's not going to be an issue, right? So in other words, if you're not doing live agent, meaning that everything either gets resolved, deflected, or assigned to the teams, then it's just going to go into your normal queue. Now, what you will find with the deployment of virtual agent is that you will over time need less resources, because there'll be a fair amount of deflection. When you start assigning using the machine learning solutions, you're going to cut down MTTR. So,
yeah, well, Pedro, let me add some additional things to that answer. So if you have 1,000 unique conversations, right? So that means, I guess you have 1,000 different topics. When you're building out those topics, you want to build them out as efficiently as possible, right? So there are topic blocks, if you're familiar with those, are like conversation flows that you can reuse in other conversations. You try to use as many topic blocks as possible, kind of standardize those, so you won't have to maintain 100 unique conversations, maybe just 100 or 1,000 unique conversations, just conversations with a lot of common topic blocks. And you can track which conversations are successful or not using the analytics tools. And if they're not successful, you add a continual improvement initiative to identify, what's going on with these conversations. So with that, it really depends on the complexity and how efficient you created the conversations. They can be very efficient, or if they are very efficient, you won't need as many people to support them, but it really depends on how really unique those conversations are.
excellent. Thanks, Dan.
Yep.
See, an interesting question. Brian, did you want to read it or?
Sure, yeah. So I'll just go down the line. So next up, we've got Sylvain asking, how would you recommend to go about when the quality of the incident records are low and how this could impact the learning process?
Dan?
Oh yeah, we see this all the time. That's why you really have to utilize those analytics tools. They have, automation discovery. It clusters the data together to try to identify, try to group the incidents together to kind of identify what service they're impacted, what type of incidents they are. And this is where your virtual agent really comes in very useful, because it starts cleaning up your records for your registered incidents, because it standardizes everything. So you get everybody using the virtual agent, and first of all, you identify what the top incidents are through those various analysis tools that clusters the data. Then you build supporting topics for those, get people to adopt the virtual agent, and it'll really clean up your incident records. So hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, I'd also add to that, like, I've seen that pain of, the incident. Let's say you're using the short description of your incidents as your initial training set. And that's not going to be in common language. Oftentimes that's in the language of the help desk. So it's hard for you to use that to train your virtual agent in terms of like NLU. I mean, it might be good at helping the virtual agent categorize something, but it's not very good at helping the virtual agent determine if something's an incident or if it's a request. So that's where I think using machine learning after day one is important, and getting that information from your customers. So when the virtual agent decides to go down a particular conversation track and it says, this is going to be a password reset, to just double check give the customer an opportunity to say, yes, I am asking for a password reset, or no. And that will help you then take whatever they said in the customer's language, register that, and get that in so that you can train on that as well as your incident short descriptions. So you get a combination of, what does the help desk call something? And then what are also your end users calling something? And that helps the virtual agent speak the language of your customer, so to speak. Next one, how can we integrate ServiceNow Virtual Agent on another application's portal?
Dan, you want to take that one?
Oh yeah, so they just there's procedures to like connect the virtual agent to, well, actually on another portal. So you can either use another chat tool, right, like Microsoft Teams or Facebook. But I've seen other customers actually integrate it with another portal. So that requires some customization, but it is possible. I don't exactly know how that works, but it can be integrated in other portals. I think that would have to be followed up.
Yep. Yeah. So it's not a turnkey solution.
No.
What I would say is probably what I see most common is maybe if your organization has a purpose-built, like organization-wide chatbot to be the front face. ServiceNow has several APIs that lets that chatbot plug into the virtual agent chatbot in the backend to handle ServiceNow specific questions. And all of the conversation topics for ServiceNow would reside in virtual agent. But then the chatbot that's exposed on, let's say, your intranet or what other applications you might be exposing that chatbot on is probably from that chatbot tool at the front end. It's also common, or not common, but possible to employ a custom widget in your intranet that is direct to your virtual agent. However, that's probably, in my opinion, more custom and less common. Running close on time, but we've got time. I'm going to go to Isaac's question. It says, would you recommend using the virtual agent guided setup tool? And if so, are there elements not covered by the guided setup tool that are critical to success?
So the guided setup tool would be helpful for that level 1, right? Where you're just starting with some of the out-of-the-box topics and general catch-all conversation to submit incidents. So it's a good step to get started. Well, obviously, it's not going to include anything for level 2 and level 3. And it's not going to include analytics. It's not going to include setting up your continuous improvement module. Because as you start going into level 2, if you remember what Dan showed, as you're doing the analysis to create the design document, you're going to identify areas for improvement, maybe knowledge-based articles, maybe automation that needs to be done to eventually get to a level 3. If you don't capture that in the moment, very high chance you'll never capture it. So unless you have to come back again. And if you want to get that particular conversation into a level 3 integration, you're going to have to start, all the way at the beginning of the thread and figure out what needs to be automated. But if you capture that in that continuous improvement module, boom, it's there. And the continuous improvement module is the repository of all those areas that you identify for improvement. It'll be there. And you can then prioritize over time which ones you're going to go for first versus others.
Thanks, Pedro. So this next one, I'm going to do some interpretation from text to spoken word. So if a customer is starting out a fresh implementation of ServiceNow, and on day 1, they're trying to take advantage of ITSM Pro features, particularly virtual agent, what would be your recommendation to that customer to give them a way to start ServiceNow and on day 1 have virtual agent?
That's a good one. Dan, got any thoughts?
Well, I don't think it would hurt. I mean, if you implement the core topics to just give the customers another resource to request for help, I think it only helps the situation. Not only that, anything going through the virtual agent, the data going through that is a lot, I would say, more structured to begin with, and helps you really identify process improvements with your incident management process, for example, from an analytics perspective.
Yeah, from a machine learning perspective, that would be tough, right? Because we don't have data to train on.
Yeah.
Right.
But from a natural language understanding, I mean, you'd have to, as part of your project, essentially create the data and the intents, or maybe survey your customers for what they would type, and use that as your data source for your initial training, and then just retrain as soon as possible, like a week or 2 after your first implementation, I'd say.
Yeah. I think there would be more focus on what information you capture from the conversation with questions to really define what the user wants, as opposed to using machine learning in the beginning, right? Because you don't have that data yet to really define the category, subcategory, whatever assignment group. So you would have to do some analysis with your processes and what services are available, and kind of build the topics around that to make it easy enough for the user to kind of identify where they need to go.
Yeah, we actually came up with an interesting solution, because that's not very unlike, how do you deal with brand new services for which there's absolutely no historical information? Yeah, so we actually came up with a real interesting approach to do that, so that virtual agent can serve those kinds of requests and inquiries or incident submissions, while the machine learning and the NLU gets trained over time.
Yeah.
Feel free to reach out, and we can share a little bit more detail on that. Way beyond the the time we have to explain it.
Yes, I think we are at time now. Thank you so much for your expertise to our presenters today. Thank you to all of you for joining us today. If we don't catch you before the holidays, we wish you and your families great season and very joyful holidays. We will be sharing the recording of today's webinar with you in a follow-up email, so stay on the lookout for that. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us. I know we didn't have a chance to address one or two. We'll reach out to you directly and we'll make sure that they're answered.
And I want to take a moment here to thank you, Anna, for all the work that you and your team have put in behind the scenes to, make this possible. Really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
Anna.
all, and have wonderful holidays.
Bye-bye, everybody. Happy holidays.
Bye.